What is up, boys? It's your boy 12 out here with another video. All right, this video is going to be over barb chaining. I was just making my account update and I was about to go into a crazy rant about barb chaining. I realized I hadn't updated my video in a while, so we're going to cover some of that. This is not going to be, I mean, obviously I'm going to talk about my setup and stuff. This is just going to be covering like Gonzalo, L2, some of the circular AoEs, all the circular AoEs we have available, what I think is most efficient, what could be better, stuff like that. So currently, this is what we are running as our 5 chaining march setup. We're running Richard YSG, CC Cyrus, Mock Theo, ZL Herman, and Martel Hera. Of these 5 marches, the 2 that give me the most trouble consistently are going to be Moctezuma Theodora and Cyrus CC, or CC Cyrus. Cyrus is just not a consistent piece at all. I think he's still kind of better than Theodora if you're paying attention, just because his AoE is going to be much larger, but it is super annoying. CC does a ton of damage, but CC is also fast, so it's not so bad. Moctezuma does frankly too much damage, which is kind of a crazy thing to say. It's awesome to have Moctezuma in any kind of PvE scenario where I have to do a lot of damage because he has a 50% health debuff towards barbs. However, as much as we love Greenhead over here and we love his damage bonus and health reduction bonus, he just kills things too fast, he's too slow, and his gear set is too specific. I think the cost of this gear being spec'd for leadership is another thing that I generally don't really talk about, because I've had my gear sets for barb damage for so long that, you know, obviously they paid themselves off, but eventually I would like to sell them and recoup it and put on another march. So Mocked, I have a few different reasons for why I would want to get him kind of out of here. He's not going to go right now, but I do have ideas for replacing him. CC, on the other hand, I think he's going to be on the chopping block next. I feel a little odd about it though, because if I replaced CC, I'd probably replace him for like Scipio, and then I'd have to have like a 3rd infantry set, and that kind of defeats the purpose. So, marches we don't like. Out of our 5, Mock Theo, CC Cyrus, Mock Theo is much worse, just all in all. So our good marches, the marches that I really liked, is specifically ZL Herman has been crazy. ZL Herman is awesome. ZL obviously is a great chainer. Generally people are running like ZL Richard or something like that. I don't really like that march, to be honest. But ZL Herman runs really fast. It does a ton of damage and it shoots out abilities like it's nobody's business. I think I actually have a report here of chaining like, yeah, this is the amount of cars that we chained with ZL Herman. And again, yeah, I'm not going to say that ZL Herman has the highest life expectancy out of any any chainer on the planet, but he moves decently fast. And I mean, like, oh my god, I mean, like the speed in which he clears barbs, but also the consistency in which he chains, because ZL's the primary commander at the AoE, both really solid, like really solid. Cannot complain. Very happily surprised with how good it was, and it's really good at taking out cars. And because it's one of your main marches, you don't have to have a specific set of gear for it. You can just run what you always run the runes you always run. You don't need a specific like barb rune set. Like you're probably fine. ZL's really solid. If you have a specific like barb armament set, you're okay to run it, but you don't have to. And then, you know, the tried and true, the classic Richard YSG. You know, Richard's got himself like 7 bill barb kills on him, and I still have like the infantry set here. When I eventually run 2 infantry sets, this barb damage set is going to go out the wayside, and I'm just going to use a legendary imp set on it. I think that should be fine. This set may slightly outperform it. I'm not entirely sure. Don't crucify me, boys. I have not tried pound for pound each, but you know, this set does decently for chaining. The legendary set, when I put it on him, also does decently for chaining. The reason why I like the legendary set is just because it has movement speed, honestly. And then, you know, YSG's got almost 750 million extra XP. Anyway, ZL Herm, Richard YSG, both really solid. I would say like a so-so march somewhere in the middle, not really solid, not really bad, is going to be Martel Hera. This march lasts a long time. I think once I get Martel expertise, it might be better. I would say he's nowhere near the chopping block right now. It's not impossible. I know like some people have been using other commanders like, you know, like Scipio, or it's just really Scipio as like a primary for chaining. Personally, I like Martel better. I think that at a certain level, Martel Hera is just going to last like a really long time, especially if you have like a 50% expansion. So it's really nice to be able to use this. If you can get this movement speed, that's just going to add in tandem. And if you're running 2 infantry marches, you're going to have 2 infantry sets anyway. You might as well run it. In terms of the new commander that just came out, he's not like brand new. We had a video on him where I talked about, you know, him being pretty good. He's Lapu Lapu. two L's, L2. You know, I'm sure I'm butchering the pronunciation, so L2 is what he is. Whenever I say L2, I'm talking about this guy. He's really cool. I don't know how he is for Garrison. I've heard like mixed results, like, oh, he's really good, oh, he's really bad. I don't care. You shouldn't care. The only thing we care about is that he has a circular AoE on this ability. All you need him at is 1-1-1-1. If you're really invested, you can go for a 5-1-1-1-1 and be really happy with that. If you can unlock him out of MGE, I think he's a must unlock right now. He's not as good as Heraclius is going to be for chaining, but he's pretty good. So if you can get him, he's going to be a really good replacement, probably for Theodora or Cyrus. It just depends on how annoyed you are by Cyrus's percentage AoE. But this dude's solid. Another thing that I've heard is, I know there are whispers, okay? Gonzalo de Cordoba. Gonzalo does in fact have a circular AoE. This circular AoE sucks. It sucks, it sucks, it sucks. Don't be like me. I used a bunch of gems in the name of science to do this. I usually don't do that. I was fooled. I was fooled by the Siege community, okay? I was convinced that the AoE was pretty solid. I saw a couple videos of him chaining. It's not the worst chaining ability I've ever seen. The thing is his circular AoE will go off in the direction of whatever you're firing at. So you don't have to be in V formation, but when you fire the AoE, instead of having a circle around yourself, it is a circle around the barb you're hitting. And because usually you're backing up into a barb, you don't want the circle to be around the barb because you can always push into the barb pretty easily and still get aggro off. But when you're pulling away, that's when it's most important. And there are situations where you might just want like where Mehmed might be putting up a better AoE, or like Ethelfled might be putting up better AoE, or Herman might be putting up better AoE, because even though they don't have the big circle, at the very least they do way more damage. And so this is just, you just don't want him. I don't see a good reason to invest in a Gonzalo. So next part of this is, if you are building your 5-arch chaining, so weird to say, you know, what's your 5-arch chaining gonna look like? If you're building your 5-arch chaining right now, what would I suggest you invest in? So I have Moctezuma. I surprisingly get people asking me if they should invest in this dude all the time. When I got this, I was in a C kingdom and I was one of the best fighters. I was either top 10 or top 5 fighter in my C kingdom. Now I'm in an imp and I ain't I'm not really anything compared to, like, you know, some of the top fighters here. So the chances of me getting an MGE like this are slim to none. I had 2 whole leadership MGEs because nobody needed it at the time. This is before Heraclius came out. And so I invested both of those into Moctezuma. Now, Moctezuma has done a lot of barb kills for me. He's done a lot of work and a lot of PvE stuff. He's pretty good. He may have won me a couple events. I can't remember exactly. I think some of the personal protective supplies events were made much easier by Moct. But anyway, point is, I managed to extract some value out of this guy. I didn't extract that much value out of him. He still really, really sucks. I would never invest in him. Right now, if you have access to the leadership wheels, Heraclius is probably your best bet. A 5-5-1-1 Heraclius is an absolutely phenomenal chainer. I put universal sculptures into Heraclius to get him to 5-1-1-1. He is that good, right? So you don't need Moctezuma. Getting L2 at least to an unlock, preferably to 5-1-1-1 through MGE sculpts, also a really good idea. Moctezuma, you just don't need him, okay? If you are building your first 5-march, you're going to get Richard. I expect Richard to be a 5-1-1-1. Honestly, a 5-5-1-1 is probably better. I don't know how much extra you're going to bleed in terms of casualties without having this, but your damage reduction is additive with barb damage reduction that you're getting from like armaments and the defense tree and everything else. So this is kind of a lot. I mean, 10% damage reduction is really good. If you can get him to a 5-5-1-1, especially early game, I think it's a good idea. I think if you're in Season of Conquest, it's probably not worth 140 sculptures, but if you're looking at it early, I think it's still a good choice. Charles Martel, you get him for free. He starts to become pretty decent at 5-5-1-1, but again, he's free. I wouldn't overthink this. If you're building out the rest of your 5-march, you know, you're probably not going to have access to Moctezuma. Having access to Chow Chow, he's fine to like 5-1-1 to be doing some chaining stuff. But if you wanted to get creative with it, there's nothing wrong with using, I probably wouldn't use Scipio if you have Richard, but if your Richard's like a 5-1-1-1, there might be like an argument if you have a 5-5-5-1 Scipio, just to use like Scipio YSG for chaining. He does have the versatility tree, so I mean, like you can get insight. Personally, I don't really care too much about insight. Just because like a little AP here and there is not really going to be the end of the world. It's really, really difficult to chain until you run out of AP, which is one of the reasons I really don't pick up ruins or stuff like that. Just because I wouldn't say it's a waste of time, but it's like if your focus is getting pulled out of chaining in any capacity, those are like gems and speed ups you're missing like as you're doing stuff. So like, would I rather have 2 barb, like a barb chain for like 6 barbs, or would I rather have a ruin? Like I'd rather have a barb chain for 6 barbs, right? The time that it takes me to run to the ruin and refresh the ruin a couple times is time I could be spent chaining, so it's not a great idea. Anyway, point is, the AP doesn't really matter, but you could reduce it if you really wanted to. Scipio does a lot of damage and he moves really fast, so having him as a primary chaining commander is not a bad idea. Another really good guy that I'm probably going to be investing in soon is going to be QB. QB's expertise is literally phenomenal for chaining. He does a ton of damage, he runs around really fast, and if you put like L2 or something as a secondary to him, I'm sure he will just be smashing it in terms of chaining. He's got a bunch of sustain, he does a bunch of damage, he is really fast. I think this dude is like the marquee chainer right now. I'm going to be investing in him and the new cavalry comm. I'm reasonably confident that QB is going to be able to pay off his entire cost, which is really nice. And I'm going to be replacing Moctezuma with him, I think. And then I'm going to take Moctezuma's gear set and I'm going to invest it into my new cap set. I think QB is like a really, really solid primary. So I don't know what the next cab is going to be, but if the next cab pairing looks something like QB plus the new cab, if you're a really heavy chainer, it might be better to run QB with whatever the new cab is before Nevsky Joan. Even though I love Nevsky and I love Joan, they are both exceptional commanders. My QB is going to pay for himself, right? I think in 3 or 4 KBKs, QB will have completely recouped all his gem cost. Something like that. Like, I don't know what the exact math is, just me doing napkin math spitballing. Don't crucify me, okay? But he's really solid. I think if you can just have like high damage dealers with decent gear, you can just run them as primaries to secondaries with AoE and not overthink it. Again, the AP costs in Season of Conquest are higher, which make the reduction from Insight much less valid, right? Like when you're attacking a barb and the barb cost is 80, going down to 70 is not as big a deal when all the barb costs are 50 and you're going down to 40. Food for thought there. Again, this is like, I don't know if there's like a ton of extra stuff to really talk about when it comes to chaining barbs, but that's kind of where I'm at right now and kind of an update on my last video. If you guys enjoy content like this, make sure you drop a like, a follow, consider subscribing. You guys can always go to the Discord in the description below, go to the role selection tab and turn on announcement and stream notifications if you guys are interested in getting notified when the stream goes live. If you guys want private coaching, we do private coaching for $75 a session. We do public coaching for $35 a session. And if you guys want to help support the channel yourselves, you guys can always go to the Discord in the description below and you guys can go to the Streamlabs link in the description below and you guys can donate there. But liking, commenting, subscribing, all that stuff really helps a ton in itself. So thank you so much for showing up, guys. I hope this video helped y'all and have yourselves an absolutely wonderful day.